Hi, friends. Welcome to Encouraged and Equipped. On this podcast, we introduce you to the women of Christ Chapel Bible Church.
We love being encouraged to live out our faith in Jesus by hearing the stories of women in our church community. We are so glad that you're here.
We've loved being with you this season and can't wait for the next. To wrap up this season, Misty, Camille, and I sat down together and gave Brooke Seale the mic to ask whatever she wanted. We told her we wanted to talk about Jesus and maybe laugh a little. So I invite you into our quirky conversation that hopefully makes you smile. Hi, welcome to Encouraged and Equipped. I'm Kathy, and I get to be here with some people that you are all familiar with, Camille and Misty and Brooke, and we, the four of us, are going to have a conversation today. We've had a great season. We've loved getting to know some of our Christ Chapel women, learning from them, hearing their stories, and we decided it would be fun if we gave the mic to Brooke Seale and just let her ask us some questions and have us maybe just have a fun episode of chatting about random things with maybe a little bit of things that matter to us. And so, Brooke, we are honored that you would come ask us some questions. So take over.
Well, I'm very nervous. I'm very excited for the opportunity. Y'all are very scary. You're very intimidating. I've actually been meaning to bring it up, and I thought on mic would be the first.
To bring up an
would be the best place to bring up some wild insecurities I've been unpacking. It's so fun. I will say this has been a pipe dream of mine, just to get to sit on mic with all of you.
What? Wow.
Yeah. So you're like, aim higher, and I'm like, no.
Definitely
I'm
aim higher.
With where the
We
bar
do very
is.
many four-person episodes. Oh. No.
In the beginning.
We've done a couple,
but it's been
not
a long
many.
time.
Yeah.
Well, 4 is a lot, so we'll see how you share, you know? No, I'm so honored that you would ask me. I feel an appropriate amount of weight on my shoulders, but y'all are all very gracious and fun. And I love each of you, and each of you have impacted me and my walk with Jesus and my love for our church family and more importantly for the Lord. And so I'm excited hopefully to get to shed the light on y'all a little bit in this conversation. Just have fun and laugh. I think it's so easy in ministry and really just in life to take yourself too seriously. Mm-hmm. And one of my kind of rules in life is to not take yourself too seriously, and which is getting a reaction for those of you who aren't in the room. And so I'm excited to unpack it. But I'm a rule follower, and I hate to make waves. Rules? I hate to make waves. And y'all start every episode the same way.
Yes.
True. So far be it from me to break a hundreds of episodes long streak. It would keep me up at night. So I would love if each of you could take a turn. We're here with Kathy and Misty and Camille, and y'all are each going to go around and just share something that's brought you joy recently.
Okay, this is little, but there's something about me that loves being outside in the rain. Not like sitting outside for an hour.
Trait. That's not. It is. Being outside in the rain. You're
serial killer trait.
Songs about it.
We're off the rails.
Is there really a song about
Singing
being a serial killer?
Right?
Oh, a song.
There's a whole musical
I don't know. There may be songs about that too.
About it.
Okay, I was not singing. And I don't want to sit outside for an hour in the rain, but I literally was outside walking somewhere. And I know most people maybe want to walk quicker. And there's a little bit of me. I mean, I don't want to get super wet, but to just walk in the drizzling rain outside for a little bit brings me an immense amount of joy.
That's really nice. I'm not going to say anything else because I'm glad that brings you joy.
It does.
I like that one because it's also you can't plan it. The rain happens when it happens. Yeah, it doesn't cost a dime. Yeah, that's neat. I like it.
A metaphor for the gospel. Misty, what's something that's brought you joy recently?
Well, I have a handful, and usually mine are those no-cost things too. But recently, I got to upgrade both my car and my phone, and I feel like I
You're
have
a
stepped
new
into
woman.
Whatever century this is, 21st century?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I forgot
and
how
you're
those
here.
work. I don't know how they work.
And as a dear friend of Misty, she needed an upgrade. In both her car and her phone.
I didn't want her to have it though.
Why not?
Because I
you
love her
liked
and I
my
want the best
baby
for her.
blue minivan.
Misty, if you didn't know, and now this is safe to say because you don't drive it anymore. Misty drove a baby blue Honda minivan.
It was my husband's grandmother's.
Yeah,
And
I was going to say, it's been around a while.
It's such a distinct vehicle.
You knew she was there.
And
Yes.
I would know Misty was on campus and in office when I would see her van, and it would just make my heart lighter. And I thought, oh, I get to see Misty at the office today. And now I'm just shooting from the hip. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm here today. I don't know if Misty's here or not.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. It
but
was.
yeah, but congrats to you.
It was free to us. I got lots of great use out of it. I hauled lots of furniture and moved kids in and out of school, but also I am so excited to have something different. So yeah, and because we jumped so many grades of technology, I went from no backup camera to all this fancy stuff, and so I embarrassed myself by being like, I didn't even know that thing existed.
It's like something's beeping, and you're like, wait, what?
Yes, and
It's
kind
amazing.
of have a hard time sometimes paying attention because I'm like, it knows whether I'm like about to
In
go
the
off the
lane
side
or
of the
not.
road. How does this happen? Yeah. Anyway,
It's
so
the
been
little
super
things
fun.
in
Yeah,
life.
Yeah. And then I also got to upgrade my phone from a teeny tiny one to a much bigger one, and my eyes can see it, and nobody makes fun of me for not being able to read texts. And I'm moving up in the world,
I
people.
would never make fun of you for those things. Never, ever. Oh my gosh, that's
Joy.
fun.
Okay, so I had something in mind and I had to change it because I remembered all of a sudden that I had this like big anticipated moment on Friday night that people were going to learn finally that Simon doesn't know how to say the word gerbil. He still says gibble, and it is the cutest thing that I have ever experienced in my life.
Sure.
And he was with a hamster.
And he's 18. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't tell him.
Yeah, he's very young.
Yeah, and so he was with a hamster on Friday night, and I was like, this is it. This is my moment to shine and like let him display all his cuteness. And he didn't say it for like hours. I was like, he knows this
You're
is
like trying to
just
work it
like
into a
a
sentence.
gerbil. And even Kathy was like, Simon, what
I was
kind of pet
baiting
do
him.
you
You're
want?
like playing word
and he's
association
like,
games.
a hamster. And I'm like, you don't want a hamster, you want a gibble.
And
But
you
eventually,
said it.
he did. He said it. He was like, here's that little thing. And I was like, and he's like, oh yeah, a gibble. And I was like, yes.
It really
He
is
did
little
it.
things in life.
is.
You're
Yeah,
such
it
a
is.
sweet mom. You're just
He's
like, my kids are cute.
You're cute. Oh, he's so
I
cute.
love that. He is cute. You got cute kids.
I know.
Congrats to
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
Well,
God just gave them to me,
you-
but they
you-
are sure.
You did some things. Yeah, yeah. You mother them.
I do.
You love them and care for them. Keep them intact.
do.
That's good. That's impressive.
Teach them. Name them.
If I ever have kids, you're going to have to play a significant role in their well-being. So buckle up.
Oh,
Buckle up.
bring
I have
more,
a
I'll pay
small
them.
army of people already recruited for
Yeah.
that season of my life.
yeah.
If I ever have kids, I'm like, okay, you're going to have like 20 aunts right out of
I
the
love
gate.
that.
Yep.
I
it's
joke
the
all
best.
the time, and I've told my mother this, and she'll laugh when she hears this. I tell people I have 14 moms, and 13 of them work at Christ Chapel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel very loved. And so if I ever have kiddos, maybe they'll hopefully get to benefit from that the way I have. Okay, so I'm so excited. Today we're just going to hang out and laugh and chat, and I feel I'm a little sweaty because I'm the one responsible for asking the questions, which is a little nerve-wracking. Usually I just get to come on here and just, y'all set me up so well, and I wax poetic about, whatever we find ourselves talking about. But my heart and hope for today, which I think will be so fun, is one of y'all's heart postures and kind of goals for this whole podcast, I feel like, has been, man, we want to build relationships and build relational equity like across our church family. And using a podcast is such a smart and thoughtful, I think, platform to use to help people connect. There have been people that, I'll tell myself a little, I have DM'd a couple of women on Instagram that y'all have had on.
Yes.
And shooters
We
gotta
want you
shoot.
to.
Like I shoot my shot, and I'm like, we should be friends. You seem nice, and it's gone
Has it
well.
worked?
Yeah, it's gone well. It's gone well.
You told me a story of who one of them were, and you're
one
like
of your
friends with
close
them now.
friends, someone you did an interview with.
Yes. Gonna be
Yvette.
thinking about. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we actually went to lunch. We had a lunch date and everything. Yeah,
That's cool.
It took a few DMs to make her feel comfortable that I was not a stalker or a serial killer. But
and that's
once
fair.
we got out of that phase, we really hit it off.
Told you you don't like to stand around in the rain, right?
Yeah.
That's how it
Oh
works.
God, led with that. I actually led with that fact. I was like, listen, I'm safe. I like the sunshine. But yeah,
I
we went to
apparently am
lunch.
not, and I didn't know.
I
Sorry.
walked up to.
Actually, I like rain,
I
too.
walked up, listener. If you don't know me, which you probably don't, I will take it upon myself to introduce myself to whoever I find fascinating or interesting, which is literally anyone I meet that I don't know. And so I walked up. I pranced my little self up to Helen Grimes after one of her episodes came out, and I introduced myself to her. And I thought, oh my gosh, Miss Helen, I think you're great. I admire you so much. Thank you for being on the podcast. And she goes, who are you? And I was like, Miss Helen, you don't know who I am. I know who you are. I'm so sorry. My name is Brooke, and it does not matter who I am. And she goes, oh, okay. And we've like been good friends ever since. I just
Helen
think the world
is
of her.
She's the best.
I think the world
Helen's
of Miss
the
Helen.
best.
I think the world of her. So with that, I just wanted to ask y'all questions just so that our audience can get to know y'all better and that we can just, I think, continue to build that bridge. I think it's so sweet to get to ask all sorts of questions, whether it's like a lighthearted, seemingly non-consequential one or one that centers around your walk with Jesus. And so we'll just see where the conversation takes us. One of the first questions I thought to ask this group of women, because I really do just deeply love and respect and admire each of you, is who's someone that has impacted your life and your walk with Jesus?
That's a very good question. Do they have to be a real? Oh wait, they are a real person. But
Yeah,
I have told. Well, it's a person
if
I've
Stuart
never.
Little really did something, that's fine.
Stuart Little, the gerbil or whatever it is.
The jibble.
So he really inspired me.
I think I've told this story actually a number of times when I've been teaching or giving my testimony or whatever. But the first person outside of Jesus that deeply impacted my understanding of the gospel was Elizabeth Elliot, and that was through her books. Like I would say for sure she was my first mentor. And if you don't know who Elizabeth Elliot was, she died maybe 10 or 15 years ago. She had been a missionary and then she was an author, and she just took her faith really seriously. I have not gone back and reread them. I don't know how they stand the test of time, but for me, as sort of a late high school, college student, just learning about the Lord, Elizabeth Elliot's, just her, she believed in obedience at any cost, and it completely shaped my idea of what it was to be a believer. So
That's sweet.
lots of real life people too, but
I haven't read a lot of her stuff. I'll add it to the list.
it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A page turner.
I'm looking at Kathy because like I associate two of these women with Kathy. And Kathy also obviously has impacted my life in a very great way, but I'm not going to talk about her because she's sitting in this room. So one of the women that Kathy was close with when I was in college mentored me. She was the first woman that like fully mentored me. And I remember sitting in IHOP with her one day and we were studying the Bible and we were talking about something. I don't remember what it was, but she was like, you know that the word of God is like perfect. Like it's good. Like it's like when we talk about it being like honey on the lips or like as pure as silver, she's like, it is pure. And I remember sitting there, it must have been like 10:30 at night. Why was she sitting in an IHOP with me? Who knows?
Because she loved you.
Because she just loved the Lord, and she loved the Word of God. And that impacted me so much, the way that I approached Scripture after having just that one conversation with her. And she taught me a lot of other great things too. But she was really impactful in that way. But there was another woman that was also involved in college ministry at that time. She led a Bible study with us. She was super wonderful. And then like fast forward a few years, I was moving back to Fort Worth, didn't have a place to live. She's like, hey, why don't you just come and stay with us for a few months? And I was like, no. She's like, yeah, it'll be fine. I'm like, you have a 2-year-old. Like, you don't want like a 20-year-old, 22-year-old living in your house. And she was like, it will be fine. We have a guest room. Bring your stuff. They like fed me meals. Like they're like, it's dinner time. Do you want to come join us? They set a place for us. Like it was.
That's so
It
nice.
was a true introduction to like what hospitality was. Like she showed me what parenting was like. She showed me how to fold the towels. Like
There is a right way.
there is a right way.
There's a wrong way.
For sure.
Yeah.
But she just lived her life that way. Like she just invited people in, and that was huge for me.
Wow.
Did she teach you how to fold a fitted sheet?
No.
Because I'm still working on that.
Girl.
Listen, I'm about to be 50, and I sort of just wad it up.
Or put it back on the bed.
Put it on her bed.
The bed. Yeah.
Approachable.
If you stick it inside of if you kind of wad it up a little bit neatly and then stick it inside of a pillowcase, it looks very purposeful.
Sure.
Oh.
My sweet mother can fold a fitted sheet like the light depends on it. She gets it perfect every time.
What?
There's
And
a way to do it. I
She
just never
has
learned.
tried to teach me, and I watch her do it.
And
It's kind of like if
replicate
you
it?
watch the episode of Friends where Joey's trying to learn French. It's like that.
Okay, do you
good.
do like the
It's like
hospital corner on your sheets when you make the bed?
Yes, I do a poor man's version of the hospital corner because my grandmother taught me how to do the hospital corner, and you legit could have bounced a quarter off that thing, and it changed my life. My grandmother, I would live with her during the summers when I was growing up, And she would wash all of our bed sheets and then put them on a clothesline outside. And there is
So they're, like,
nothing
crisp.
better
Yeah.
than a crisp sheet off the clothesline that smells like sunshine.
Yep.
And with a tight hospital corner, baby. You were not getting out of there once you were in it.
That's kind of a grandmother thing. My grandmother
It's
did all of that
totally a
too.
grandmother
Hung her
thing.
sheets on the line,
Yep.
made the bed like that.
My
Yeah,
grandmother
that's like
chased
a
me with a
core.
chocolate.
That's a core part of like my childhood in my brain is summers at Grant's. So she deeply impacted me, and not just because she made my bed. Kathy, do you have any thoughts on that question?
Yeah, it's hard to answer mainly because so many people came to mind that I'm like,
I would
how
agree.
blessed am I that I'm like
a
having
great
to sift
point.
through. So I'm going to go with the first one, which I'm not saying is more or less important, but also think
did the
it's
same.
different than yours. I had a really good friend who just loved Jesus, and in some ways, she was not my mentor, would never call myself her mentor, but she had just walked with Jesus a whole lot longer than I have. And just by being her friend in the least judgmental way possible, just in the way she talked about her life and what she did that day. Hey, I was running on the track yesterday and I was meditating on this scripture and it made me think of blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't like I'm trying to teach you something or I'm trying to model something for you or I'm trying to grow scripture meditation in your life. It was just her talking about her day.
Just living
and
her life.
being good friends with someone who loves Jesus, and just the fact that in this very natural way she talked about it, I learned an immense amount from her and picked up so many habits and saw just a peer who wasn't awkward or weird, genuinely loved Jesus. And it was profoundly influential to me. I'm really grateful for her.
It's like the first influencers.
Yes.
She didn't mean to be an influencer,
No.
but she was an influencer.
And,
That's a great point.
Yeah, she didn't
Like
mean
a
to be an
literal
influencer. She
influencer.
just lived her life and would talk about things that mattered to her. And it some of those things were Jesus. And so when she would just talk about it, it was just very natural. What'd you eat for dinner? Oh, what'd you do today? What'd you whatever? And I mean, still to this day, I remember, certainly not everything, but I remember things that she'd be like, hey, I was on the track or I was doing this. And I'll remember things she said. And it was very influential for me.
That's really
lovely.
sweet. Also, kudos to you for your memory. So I think the local church is the greatest gift God has given us outside of our salvation. I'm just convinced. Like, you cannot ever tell me anything different. And I think a lot of the relationships y'all have mentioned have been based around your faith and even around your church family specifically. So what about being a part of a church family has been costly and rewarding?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think about this a lot because I didn't grow up in a church at all. And so I think maybe I don't want to say I value it more than somebody that had always been in a church their whole life, but I never have stopped. So I trusted Christ when I was between my junior and senior year in high school, 17-ish. I have never stopped being kind of in awe of the local church, a church body, that sense of belonging. My really very favorite worship service every single year is here at the Christmas Eve service because I just didn't grow up going to church on Christmas and then didn't really get to on Christmas until kind of I had my own family. We weren't kind of going back home or whatever. I grew up in a great home. We just weren't. They weren't believers, aren't. And so I think I'm just kind of in awe of it, and I've totally forgotten your question. What was the actual question now that I'm thinking about how much I like being here?
That's the kind of effect my questions have on
Yes.
me. It really
Brooke's
sits them down.
actually fine though if you just keep talking.
I
It's
totally
good.
am.
Was
Yeah.
it favorite?
Yeah, what's costly about being in a church family and what's like the most rewarding part of being a part of a church family?
Well, honestly, what's costly is you kind of have to show up for people when you don't want to.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I mean,
I think that's honest
you
and
have
true.
to show up
and-
for people when you're tired or when you'd rather just not. And it's what people have done for me, and I'm super glad for it, but it pushes me out of my comfort zone in every way is the uncomfortable part. I have learned in my job to kind of put myself out there to just step in a group to get to know people, whatever. I'm the opposite of what you are, Brooke, who like can work a room or whatever. Like I would much rather be anonymous, and that's not really what
It's
we're
because you're
called
more
to do.
humble than me.
And so, no, it's just a personality thing. It has nothing to do with humility. And so it has forced me in both hard ways but it's also been a good thing to put myself out there and get to know people that I would never have gotten to know and that kind of thing. So it's kind of the good and the hard.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of things that way I think are
True.
like life and on this side of heaven is the good and the hard are the same thing.
I had a real hard time thinking about like what is costly about being part of our church body. I grew up in a family. My dad worked at church, and so we were always in church. And so I think probably my view of it has shifted over the years. Like, when you're growing up and you're like, oh, we're always in church. I can't do like gymnastics on Sunday like I would have even if I, there's no way I would have done it anyway. But like, even the time commitment, like, I don't even think it's that costly, to be honest with you, because like, this is our family. Like,
that's a great
when
perspective.
we're here a lot on Sunday. Like, we're here for one service, we're serving another service, we're doing Avenue sometimes. And so we're at church on Sundays a lot. But even that doesn't feel like I'm with my brothers and sisters. Like, that's our family.
sweet.
And so the reward of it is that, like,
That's what it's designed
it's
to
an
be.
incredible sense of belonging. Like, not only am I not, like, part of the costliness of it is, like, really being known. Like, you got to be vulnerable. You got to really allow people to know you. And that, it can be costly. But the payoff is so worth it. Because then, like, that's the true bond of that we get in Christ. The unity that we have in Christ is when we know each other and we know we all need Jesus so much.
Yep.
And in different ways. And he matches us together in ways that are like, wow, I really see your humility when you talk about that. And I really need that. Like, I would love to be challenged in that. So,
Yeah,
There's so
that's
much
a great
wisdom in that
answer.
answer.
Yeah, and I will say this is, I think I jumped right on to what is personally costly to me, but I can't imagine what my life would be without it. Like, I often try to imagine what would I be doing if if the Lord hadn't called me to himself? What would my life be like? What would I do career-wise? Everything. And I can't even imagine life now without the church.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really
Which is a
sweet.
great thing. I never thought of that.
Yeah, praise God.
I have a hard time answering this question. I think, Brooke, because I feel like you and I could both write a dissertation on this. And
Yeah,
still
I have no
need more
plans to though,
pages.
so you go ahead.
The harder part, I think, is in some ways easier for me. I think the harder part is because the gospel calls us to be different and the scriptures call us to be different. If someone who works at, if someone at Walmart or wherever does something wrong or hurts me, or someone who doesn't know Jesus, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but I understand they don't know Jesus. They don't have the power of the Holy Spirit. They don't have the scriptures to know they're called to something else. And I feel like for me, the hardest part of being at a church is I know we should all know and do better. And so when someone hurts me, I feel like you and I both know it should be different.
Yeah.
And so personally, I feel like it hurts a little bit more for me than if someone who doesn't know Jesus hurts
That's a
me.
great observation.
Yeah.
And so, and we should be different. And sometimes we're not. And I understand why I'm not, but it hurts me more. I think in the same way that y'all do, like, it's funny, Misty, when you said, I think maybe the church matters because I didn't grow up in church, which on the one hand, I agree, and I smiled in my own head because I'm trying to go with my first response to the answers to your questions because I feel like this one for me could be layered, but my first response was, in a way, the flip of yours. It was, I don't ever remember not being in a church, and so I don't know what my life would be like without it, and I kind of was going to answer, I feel like why it matters so much to me is because I was always there. I mean, like, some of the people that I grew up in church with would be, I'm not planning to get arrested, but if you get arrested or if you're stranded on the side of the interstate, who are you going to call? And literally some people that you've known that were a part of your church body that are those long-term family friends from middle school or make the short list. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, there's that.
If you ever get arrested, I hope you call me just so that I can say, guys, Kathy got arrested and she called me because I would really need to know what happened.
I'm like feeling a little sweaty now.
Yeah. That's okay.
I'm kind of like playing out that where do you show up for bail and how does all this work? And
I'm trying to have a moment here.
And we botched it. That's on me as the lead. Yeah. That's on me. Yeah.
Okay, but I honestly feel like as much as God uses all kinds of things to form us, like I have really been formed by the church, even in those times that you would have thought it might have been through a parachurch organization, like the Bible studies, the mentors, the relationships, the opportunities to serve. And so it's honestly hard for me to think of a relationship or the way that I was formed that wasn't through someone that I had a local church connection with. And so
That's cool.
It is.
it's not a gift everyone gets. And
That's a good way to articulate
see
it.
it as a gift. And it doesn't mean someone else's gift was wrong or not a gift.
Right.
It's just been
That's the one that you got.
unique for me that those things have been formed through the local church.
That is stinking sweet.
See why we're friends, Brooke.
It really is. Well, there are
I mean,
multitude
we're
of
friends
reasons.
for multiple reasons, but I was like,
Sure.
we both. I know you would give a very long
yes,
answer
I
about
would.
loving the church too.
I have been deeply, deeply shaped by the local church my entire life, and Christ Chapel has been no different. I didn't come to Christ Chapel until I was in my 20s, and so in my naivety of my early 20s, I was like, I'm already pretty formed. Like
That's
I
hilarious.
am who I am. I know, ha ha ha, the young girl. And I look so much different than when I got here. I've been here for almost a decade, and I look different than when I got here.
And I will say this, and I really mean this, not to sound spiritual, but like I hope the church continues to form me.
Yeah.
Ask the question of looking back, and
Yep.
like I hope one of the reasons that I stay is to
Yeah.
continue to be formed.
Yes.
And through both the things that are hurtful and the things that are helpful.
That's a
Because
great
on the one
point.
hand, the reality is that my life has been formed by the church, which means my greatest helps and my greatest hurts in some ways has come through the church.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to paint a rosy picture,
Yeah,
but because
right.
I have been so formed,
Yeah.
which means that the people who have known me the best and influenced me the most have mainly been through the local church, which means that the ways I've been helped the most and the ways I've been hurt the most in life have largely come through someone related to my church.
And it's like family. I mean, it's our
really
church
is.
family. That
Yeah.
sounds very much like your family of origin.
Yep.
The people who have loved you the best and the people who have hurt
Seen
you
you
the
at your
most.
worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or seen you at your worst.
And that have really been hurtful have been through the church.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think God really hasn't, I don't want to act like I've tried to leave, but God hasn't let me leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
And
God.
I could have, not could have, but if you
Sure.
wanted to say, well, those people hurt me, are you going to bail? And I'm like, well, I haven't
yeah.
because God wouldn't let me. And I'm really glad he didn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
It reminds me of remember what Emily was talking about on the hurt episode? The one that
Yeah.
we just had, and
Yeah.
she was talking about the pathways in the brain and how, like, when you make a repair, like, the pathway gets stronger. That's what that reminds me of. That's like with your family of origin, like when you reconcile with somebody and your connection is stronger, like it may
Yeah.
not be with that particular person that hurts you, but like with the church in general, like if somebody within the church body is hurtful and like there's reconciliation or restoration that happens with you and the church body, like that's a stronger connection. Like that is a blessing that comes in the end when you're able to do that.
Very
Yep.
interesting. That's a great observation.
I don't think there's anything more intimate you can do almost with people rather than need forgiveness and ask for it and then be the one that gets to extend it. Like that is such an intimate thing to
It is.
do. And I think our culture has watered down forgiveness so much of like, and I'm guilty of this. I'll be like, oh, dude, I really dropped the ball there. My bad. And I'll leave it there. And then the other person will be like, oh, it's all good. No worries. And I've been on both sides of that interaction. But it's so much more intimate and clear and bonding to say, hey, I messed up and I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? And then if you're on the other end of that interaction to say, you know what, that was a bummer and that was pretty hurtful and I do forgive you. Like that is intimate.
You're right.
I think I have this list of questions in front of me, and I'm like, I would lose sleep if I moved on from this conversation that's unfolded in front of us, because I think I hope the listener is having the same experience I'm having sitting here. I'm like, man, they're wise. Like I just want to set them up to keep answering my questions selfishly of just, man, there's so much wisdom in what's being shared. This is just, listener, hear me say, this is not a, let's just get to know one another and talk about ourselves. This is, we talked about this off mic of, man, I just want to talk about how do these questions help you point to Jesus and give him glory and talk about how he has shaped you and formed you and used other people. And I think we can't move on from this part of it without saying, yes, this is true of the church because this is where we've camped out for the last 3 minutes, but also this is true of anything in life, of that if you leave when it gets hard, you will not see the fruit.
Ooh. That's convicting.
Or at least not all of it.
No,
Like,
you won't.
You won't. Like I feel so safe in this church family, not because I've done it perfectly or because Christ Chapel's done it perfectly. I feel safe because people have watched me fall and have watched me mess up and have watched me drop the ball and make mistakes and And one of the women at this table knows all the worst things about me. And I feel safest here because it has not been about what can I earn or achieve or present. It's been about how can I display my walk with Jesus and invite other people into it. And so if you're hearing this and you're hearing us talk about the church is awesome and you're like, I'm not having that experience, keep leaning in. Please don't leave. Fight for what matters. And that's true of any relationship in life, I think, is if you leave when it gets hard, you will not see the fruit.
That's great.
And so, and that made me think of another question I wanted to pick all of your brains on. And it's this idea of something you all kind of alluded to, even if it wasn't explicitly said, and how you shared about the church is being a part of the local church is something you see in Scripture that we're commanded to do, asked to do, invited to do. And it's costly, it's hard. It doesn't come easily or naturally, but y'all all articulate in your answer, oh, this is a costly or hard part of doing this. And that's true of so many parts of the Christian life. What are things you've seen in your life that were hard to choose obedience in, and God in his kindness to you let you see the fruit of?
Ooh. Wow.
Okay, I'll go because I have an easy answer for this. And I talk about it way too much. So, listener, if you're going to tune out, now's the time. But
Definitely not.
okay, so what was it, 4 years ago? Oh, around 4 years ago. We decided we were going to, in the middle of the pandemic, just rent out our house that we were living in, our home.
What?
Where we live, yeah. And we were like, we're gonna move into an apartment, and we're gonna rent out our house. We're gonna downsize everything. We got rid of over half of our stuff, right?
Wow.
And we moved into an apartment, and there are lots of reasons why somebody might do that. And if you're in the middle of doing this, we can commiserate about it a lot, or we can talk about the joys of doing it a lot. But we chose to do it for financial reasons, and it was really difficult. I'm able to laugh about it now, but it was
I kind of remember. I didn't know you well then, but I remember that from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
It was hard.
It was hard, and it was real hard. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was hard on our marriage, but it was definitely Lord, when I made this covenant with you and with Philip, I knew it was going to be hard. And I knew there were parts of me that it was hard to trust the Lord and it was hard to trust Philip, not because either one of them were not trustworthy, but just because I am sinful and it's hard for me to let go of control. So anyway, we did this and Philip was like, hey, it's going to be for a year. If it doesn't work out, we'll move back in and it'll be fine. And I was like, great, for 1 year. I have a timer set, 1 year.
Careful.
And ask me now, are we back in the house?
Didn't this story start with 4 years ago?
4 years ago,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So for those doing the math at home, that's
It's been
3
4
years longer than what you
3 years
committed
longer
to.
than my timer. And we are quickly approaching the 4-year mark, and there's no sign yet of us moving back in. So, and all that to say, you asked, did the Lord let us see fruit in that? Oh my goodness.
That's cool.
I might get weepy thinking about an overabundance of fruit that has come from it. Not just the financial reason that we set. Yes, and I could talk about that for hours, but the fact that I learned the Lord gently peeled back layers of Camille, you were really trying to control the decisions in your household. Not in a I think I know best, but in a I want to have control kind of way. Or how I let go of a lot of things in my parenting and let the Lord show me that I was being super prideful in my parenting, or how I was being prideful about how we would manage our finances coming out of this time, or what did I really think hospitality was? And my idea of hospitality was totally upside down, and the Lord had to peel back those things again and show me let me show you and teach you, Camille, because you don't know. I want to teach you what it looks like to be needy and to be humble and to be hospitable when I am the one who's providing for those things. And it's been so good. I would love to be in a house, but also I love the fruit of what the Lord has done in the 4 years that we've been out of our house.
That's stinking sweet.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you expound on all that off mic.
Okay.
So we'll hang out.
Yeah.
Coffee on me.
Yeah, I have questions about it too, but I'm not going to get us off track. So I have been at Christ Chapel for 25 years this summer, which is fun. I'm just doing the math in my head right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Who would have ever guessed that?
That's so
I hope
fun.
I get to say that one day.
First we moved to Fort Worth, and I asked somebody that had kind of grown up outside of Fort Worth about it, hey, we're going to try some churches. What do you know of? She said Christ Chapel. She hadn't grown up here, but she had a friend of a friend or whatever that was these people just went to Christ Chapel. You should try it. Tried it. never left. Who would have ever guessed 25 years later I'd be here?
That's sweet.
I had been a volunteer at Women in the Word for lots of years, and at some point, maybe 11-ish years ago, Shelley Davis asked if I would learn how to teach, so to teach at Women in the Word. And I had done public speaking and the debate team and whatever in high school, but had not done anything like that at all for a super long time, like decades, I guess, between getting out of like high school, college, and when she asked that. And I thought, I absolutely do not want to do that. Nothing about it seems fun to me. It seems like a ton of work. It seems very scary. It seems like it's all risk, and can't somebody else do that? And I will work behind the scenes all day long. And I really, really didn't want to do it. And I told her that, and she said, why? And I said, well, I didn't tell her it seemed like a ton of work, and I already had plenty of work. But
That's pretty good.
that's just not something you said. Anyway, if you're listening, Shelley, I would never have told you that part. But what I did say is basically some form of, I am afraid of failing in front of other people. And because that is really what it was, is I am afraid that I will try this and I will look so dumb in front of people I really, really care about the way, if I'm honest, think of me. And she said, hey, what if it's not about you? It's not about you. She said, if you succeed, you will succeed for God's glory, and you will know it was all him. And if you fail, you will fail as a sacrifice to the Lord. And that was a real profound thing. And
Yeah, that's really wise.
It was. And that was kind of one of those conversations that I will never forget. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember the impact it had on me, not just for that, but for lots of other things. And I still very reluctantly did that. I didn't. Okay, so here's the long story of that. I think that was 11 years ago that I started teaching at Women in the Word. I just noticed last semester that I like it.
Oh, that's a long time.
I've always done it as
we like it too,
Thank
Misty.
you. I've always done it as an obedience. I really don't think I have the gift of teaching. I have other, that's just not my primary spiritual gift. I have always said I have done it out of obedience, and I have felt God's, what was the word? Pleasure, maybe? I don't know if that sounds weird, but his pleasure at me being willing to be obedient in that. And then 11 years in, I have started to enjoy it. And I don't know what my point is, other than I can't think of any other thing in my life that I've stuck with that long that I didn't like doing. I never disliked it. I just didn't like it. And I don't know. It's just, I just can't stop thinking about how the Lord let me do that for 11 years before I started kind of thinking, all right, this is kind of fun, and looking forward to it. And I don't know. I'm not sure what my point is, but God's been good in that.
Simultaneously encouraged and scared to death hearing that. I'm like, oh no, what if God asked me to do something that I don't even like for 11 years?
Yeah, then you'll be like me.
Yeah, that's part of the goal, honestly.
Yeah.
That is part
We'd
of the
all
goal.
be a better person if we were more like Misty.
No,
that is
it's
true.
just interesting to me. Yeah.
That's fascinating. That also, you made me want to ask a question that we're definitely going to circle back to before we stop recording. Do you have anything to that question before we move on?
I will be, I'm saying I'm going to be brief. I hope I'm brief. I've never thought about it in that way, and so, in the way that you asked it. And so I'll tell you what came to mind. John 6 actually came to mind because Jesus had been teaching, and the disciples heard what he had to say in verse 16. It said, it's a hard saying. So they say it's a hard saying. And I think about how in my life, like the hard sayings or the hard circumstances that have come my way. And Jesus basically, as you walk through the passage, you see in verse 66 that some of the disciples turned back and they didn't walk with him anymore.
Yeah.
And I think about how when the hard things or the hard things have come, I don't know that I've ever given serious consideration for very long to like just leaving the Christian faith. But I think it's the gradations of, are you still going to actually dig in to really get Jesus and walk with Jesus? Or are you going to build walls or shut down and maybe not walk away, meaning not come on a Sunday or not volunteer, but in your heart of hearts,
Yeah.
you have decided that the hard saying or the hard suffering is too much.
Wow.
And I would say that I have found myself there regularly where the choice is, are you still going to really go after Jesus wholeheartedly? And I'm not saying perfectly.
Sure.
Or are you going to let the hard sayings and the hard circumstances cause you to shut down from really following him? And then Jesus looks at them and he says, are you going to go away as well? And I feel like that for all of us is an option.
It is.
Are you going to show up on
Yep.
Sunday? Are you going to still volunteer?
Yep.
But are you really going to go to Jesus?
And hold your hands
As
and your heart
your
open to him.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
And
question.
Simon Peter says, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. And we have believed and have come to know that you're the Holy One of God. And then there are times that I really turn to Jesus and say, I'm in, and my heart is there. And there are times that I kind of look around and I go, if I could come up with any other rational way to do this, I would.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And you kind of find yourself like Simon Peter going, there's just not anywhere to go.
It's like, where else am I going to
and
go?
and staying is hard, but leaving appears unwise.
And probably would be harder in the end.
And probably would be harder
Yeah.
and would be harder in the end.
Not probably. Right. It would be. Yeah.
But staying isn't easy. And so I would say, and again, I hope that if you've just turned on, that you go back and listen how I built this, because I'm not saying that I regularly think I'm going to not be a Christian anymore. But there are many times that I think too hard. The suffering, the moment, the emotion, the call, the scriptures, too hard.
Yep.
And the obedience to me is staying,
Yeah.
knowing that Jesus is the one that keeps me staying. But staying and the sanctification, the change, and the more of Jesus that I get from that is the fruit.
That is a good word.
It is.
That's why we hang out.
I love hanging out with you.
Okay, not to totally shift gears, but Misty wants to giggle, so I'm going to try to make that happen. And Misty said something that I didn't know about her that now made me want to ask a question. Oh, dear. Misty mentioned that she was on a debate team.
Oh, dear.
Nerd.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now, no, this is
She
fun.
and David met. It's how she met her husband.
That's cute. See, you knew that. Did you know that?
I think I might have heard it.
See,
but
I
it's
didn't know
still
that.
So
So this is brand new
cute.
information. It's so cute. I probably would have been on debate team had I been in a school large enough
To
and
have one.
well-funded enough to have a debate team. Okay, so what was y'all's like thing in high school? What were your hobbies? What were you involved in? What were your who was high school?
Okay, well,
Kathy,
it
Misty,
has
Camille.
to start earlier than this because
Well, sure.
Misty and I almost never talk about it. We should talk about it more. And it was not my primary hobby, but just so you know, I'm a terrible dancer, and this is not an understatement. And the only type of dancing I've ever taken in my life
Stop it.
is the same kind of dancing that
Oh,
Misty's
yes.
Yes.
I'm so glad this is where we're going.
Misty and I both have clogging.
Shut.
You probably know what clogging is.
Okay, do I know what it is? Sure. Would I have ever guessed that Kathy Harrelson did it?
And
No.
Misty and Kathy Harrelson.
And nobody
have
does
both
it.
clogged.
Yeah. It's like
Half of the
Appalachian
people in this
tap
room.
dancing.
Go Google it.
Yeah.
Because 98% of you listening to this podcast. So go Google it. It's a cross between tap and square dancing. And yes, it is Southern.
You're
and
laughing.
country music and crazy nerdy.
Listener,
And it has
my
totally
jaw is on the
changed your
floor.
perspective of us.
You clogged?
Oh yeah,
I have so many follow-up questions.
Like checked outfit.
Yes,
little
yes, I have that
frilly
too.
skirt.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I was a
where it's
Texas
where-
blue bonnet clogger. It was blue and white checks. We had a blue bonnet, like little applique thing, and a little.
This is more than I could have hoped for or imagined.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. When
So
is
we
the
both
last
have-
time you clogged?
Like really clogged. I mean, like elementary school. But if you
Okay.
needed to,
Oh yeah, I could do it
I
right now.
could
A little.
stand up right now. And
places.
please hear me say that I respect tappers.
Yes.
But if
Yeah,
you're a
of
tapper
course.
or a clogger, like they are not the same thing.
No.
And they are equally wonderful and valuable. So this isn't a judgment statement. But I could still, with my feet, make the double tap sound.
Oh yeah, me too.
Right now.
I do it all the time. Like still,
Yes.
just the simple steps. Like it's just what your feet do.
It's
Yeah.
just what your
Yeah.
feet do. I don't ever do a tap
Yeah.
movement.
My feet
but,
don't do anything.
But this, yes.
I am flabbergasted.
It was not my most important hobby, but
Yeah.
it is one that
Wow.
Misty and I share, which I feel like
I
opens
totally
up
forgot you
a
did that too.
dynamic to our personality that you
Wow.
needed to know.
Okay, I'll tell you.
I
one
love
of-
you even more.
I know.
Country music. And
Oh,
let's
yeah,
go.
yeah. It was always country music, too. Yep.
Well, sure.
Yep. Or Bob Seger.
You have broken my brain and put it back together again. Wow.
So we had this conversation just this week, and both of my boys there, one just graduated from college.
You're
one's in
moving on.
college.
I'm not
I'm moving on.
Brooke was y'all listeners.
yeah.
Brooke does not get taken off guard to where
What is so? What I want to know is why this is such a big
why are Misty
thing.
and I not cloggers?
They don't know that this is not the norm. Like,
Yeah.
Brooke and I are looking at it like, we know this is not the norm
Yeah.
of people's
I
experience.
don't even know how to respond.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
I wish we had
I guarantee you what I'm experiencing.
We were videoing our podcast.
I guarantee what I'm experiencing is what the listener is experiencing. So keep both hands on the wheel and just keep chugging straight ahead, listener. Maybe this is a flaw of mine. When I meet someone, which I think all humans do this to an extent, I operate under the assumption of like, oh, as I'm meeting you is how you've always been, right?
Yeah.
Like in my brain, I can't conceptualize that you ever clogged because I didn't know that about you. And in my brain, I'm
you
like,
think I'm really uncoordinated?
no, oh my gosh, it's not. I'm not. Okay, we'll get there. Okay, debate team. Golly. Oh my gosh.
never
This is our
gonna
first
come back
fight.
and host
This is our
you
first fight. Oh
ever
my,
again.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Listener, I hope you enjoyed my stint on Encouraging to Quit because it's over now. Listen. Kathy here, we'll take Kathy for example, then we'll shift to Misty. I've known Kathy longer. Kathy also knows more about my sin, even though Misty, you could probably connect the dots. But Kathy knows more about my sin. And so in my brain, I'm like, oh, Kathy's just this godly woman who, it's kind of like when you're in elementary school and you see your teacher at the grocery store and you're like, you have a life.
Yes.
My brain is broken.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
You broke my brain because I love you and I'm obsessed with you. I now have this new fun fact, and I love you even more.
I will.
And you're so well-rounded with the debating and the clogging.
Yes. Well, okay, but here's my other one. I was just going to tell you.
Tell me.
I was talking.
This is the best part of this episode.
Okay, I am like 5'1", 5'2" if I'm standing up really tall.
Really
and
straight.
I played
You're so
basketball in middle school.
Whoa.
And so
Shut
just
up.
this weekend, my kids were like, now, why did you play basketball? And for a while, I was even on the A team. It didn't last, but I was on the A team for a while.
Get you a girl who can do both.
And I was, short then too. Okay, so my kids were, and I'm not terribly athletic or coordinated, truly. And one of my kids this weekend was like, now, how did that work?
Sure.
Basically,
How did it go?
super skeptical. And I said, well, I don't know that I was terribly good, but I was very aggressive. Oh, and
isn't that the spice of life?
A hustle gets you a long way in sports.
It did.
Sure.
And until it didn't.
I was
and then
way too
I wasn't
gentle.
on the A team after that, but it did for a long time. And so that was I played very aggressive.
Wow.
Basketball as a very short girl.
Middle schooler.
Yeah. And then I had to drop that because that was for sure not going to go in high school sports.
Sure.
And then did the speech and debate team.
Wow.
All around.
What else did you do?
I was a lifeguard. I worked at Chick-fil-A. I read a lot. I was a nerd. I read a lot. I read way more than the required reading. You did too, I'm sure.
No, I didn't.
Camille.
Not
You weren't a reader then?
No.
Yeah.
I love you so much it hurts.
Yeah, I
physically.
can remember the
Oh my
smell of my high
gosh.
school library and the card catalog.
Oh, the card catalog.
And
I learned how to use a card catalog, even though that was a little
Before your time.
I'm young enough to where I didn't really need to know how to use one, but my grandmother's been a librarian my entire life. So she taught me how to use a card catalog.
Yeah.
She's the church librarian, too.
Oh my.
I think she celebrates 50 years this year.
Praises.
I did Kung Fu.
What?
Like
I was
karate?
good.
Like panda? Like see, I told you we would laugh.
And actually,
I told you we would laugh.
I was good at it. I won like tournaments and stuff.
You won tournament.
Yeah,
what
like,
color
I
belt
won
did
for
you
all of
wear?
this.
What color
I
belt?
only
What do
got
you mean you
to, like,
forgot? This is like
orange.
key
I
parts of
only
your
got
life.
to orange
I guarantee you, the women that are listening to this that know you will never forget that you just said that.
Yeah.
We
I
were
was-
all
I
going to
did
be up in
competitive
heaven
Kung Fu.
together one day just chatting about it. And we're going to be like, do y'all remember when Misty did Kung Fu and told us about it?
I have never wanted us to do video episodes more than I do right
Than
now.
I do
Because
right
I
now.
need for her to stand up
Yeah,
and
yeah.
do
I could
some
still
work.
do a good kick. Yeah.
This is.
Well, I hope I don't upset you.
Yeah, because I have trophies.
You were so well-rounded. Oh my!
I didn't do anything for super long. I mean, I did debate all of high school, but I would tend to do things, a few years
In
of clogging
spurt.
and then a few
Sure.
years of kung fu.
Well, because
and then
once
a
you've
few
mastered
years of-
something, it's boring.
Well,
sure.
I didn't master any of it.
Wow.
But
Golly, Kathy, what were you doing when you weren't clogging?
I feel like I was the person that would try a variety of different things. So here's the thing, like I like and am pretty persistent, so I'll try to figure out anything.
Couldn't be me.
And so I did a lot of different things. I wasn't necessarily great at all of them, but I mean, pick from clogging to playing softball to playing basketball to being
sporty
in a
girl.
See that.
church
So sporty.
musical to being a part of the choir at church to being a part of the
Can you
choir in high
sing?
school.
sounds
I will
like
say
it.
this, that
Yeah.
I loved singing as a part of a choir, played piano,
Which
took
is very
piano lessons
different.
for forever. Still to me, to this day, I have a super old piano at my house, like super old. And occasionally I'll sit down and play a
No,
hymn.
you
I'm very
won't.
much a words person, but when there are moments that I don't know how to say words, I'll sit
is
down and
so
play a song on
tender.
the piano. So with singing choir, I was never going to be a soloist. And I don't have a great ear, but I can read music. And so singing is a part of a group of people. Again, you don't want me just on mic, but as a part of a choir, totally love it. Played the flute for a few years.
Played the flute.
Oh yeah, played the flute
just
for
like a
a few
pig
Not to
years.
be
thing.
not to be
not.
dramatic. This
That's
is my
hard.
favorite conversation we've ever had.
Are you serious?
Maybe not really, because we've had some pretty life-changing ones, but this has
But
been by
in
far
this
the most
moment-
entertaining.
For today.
Wow.
For today. And I also just loved, and I really did, like I loved learning. I took a lot of APs and honors classes. And so
Sure.
spent a lot of time studying.
favorite subject
Like-
in school.
Oh, math all the way.
Yeah, girl.
wait.
Come on.
I finished
The
all
math and the rain.
It is our,
It's
our
gross.
it is this secret thing that Camille
No.
has in common that's not a secret. Yeah. I finished
I was
all
a
the
big
calculus.
I was a literature nerd. I really enjoyed reading and
She says
Yeah,
it, I
I
believe
did
it.
like there's really not enough time in my life to like I wish I could
Yeah.
go do all of those.
Yeah.
Like doing a
Sure.
variety of different things is
Yeah.
super fun.
that is so fascinating to me.
I'm just going to pick clogging. I'm going to pick
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
I
and everything.
started
one.
with the best. Okay.
did.
I knew
And I had totally forgotten
if
we
you
had that in
did a
common.
blue and white striped denim
Sure.
gingham outfit
Yep. Sure.
would just
Okay.
make Brooke's day.
Yeah. Yeah, we could also do other things. Wow. You broke me down and put me back together with all those answers. That, wow. See, I told you we would laugh.
Yeah, we
I
did.
told you we would giggle. So you know the love languages, like quality time, words of affirmation, blah, blah, blah. What is your oddly specific love language?
Oh,
So a way that people can oddly specifically
Camille has an
love
answer clearly.
you.
You go first.
okay, so I have two answers. The first one is a silent disco. Pretty much is any time where like I can.
one.
I
When's
can,
your birthday?
June 13th.
Write that.
It's the
Your
last
birthday's
day-
June 13th?
Yes.
My birthday's June 12th.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
We're so close in
We're
birthdays.
so close in birthdays.
Except for the year.
No, the year's not that far apart. Okay, so silent disco.
So like anything that's
Why
like
a
that.
silent disco?
Okay, because here's the thing.
Break it down for me.
I want to dance on a stage and I want to sing on a stage,
I
but
knew I
I
liked you.
don't want the attention of it. I just want to
that
be
feels backwards.
yeah, but I love it.
Okay.
I love to dance. I love to sing.
Sure.
And so like when everybody's got their headphones on, like first of all nobody's watching me dance, so I don't care. But also I'm singing and nobody is hearing me and I am singing. Like I am legit.
Oh.
I am doing all
Because everyone's
the voices.
headphones are on.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, they
It's the
can hear
best.
you, Camille. I had
It
to
is
break
the
it
I
to
know.
you.
I was trying to figure out how that worked,
I
but
was
it's
like,
because everyone else has
I'm going to
their-
rain on your parade on this podcast. Okay, fun.
Yeah.
What's your like rock out song?
Okay, I have a new one. This is not a silent disco song, but it's my new karaoke song, and I
me.
decided it's "Waters Run Dry" by Boyz II Men.
Shut your mouth.
I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that I can sing all of the parts exactly like they are.
And I
in the
I bet you
song.
can.
I mean, it's just
You just have to record them
We'll
on
get
top of
Kathy
each
up
other,
there
right?
to
Yeah.
clog behind
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Can't clog to
But
boys.
it's not a dancing song.
You could if
It's
you
not a
were
dancing
good
song.
enough.
I am not good enough.
You can't clog
Let's
the
be
boys
clear.
to
Yeah,
men. New episode title. Wait, what was your other one? Silent disco was your first one.
It's when friends ask me to watch their pets or their kids. I love it. Like
okay.
nothing tells me that they love me more than like
And trust
trusting
you.
me with like their loved ones.
That's really a
love it.
holy answer. That would not. I love that.
I said it
And
so
if
that
I
you would
had a
think I was
dog,
holy.
I would let you watch the dog.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If I ever get a dog, I think about it every now and then. I would
about
get
it
him
I know you
one.
thought about that.
I let myself think about it once a year for a week. and then I don't do it, and then it passes, and then I do it again. Every year, like this time of year, I'm like, I could get a dog. And then I'm like, you silly goose.
You can't get a dog.
I can't get a dog.
I love Brooke Seale. She does not need a dog.
Yeah, I can't get
She's
a dog.
not, no.
Listener, weigh in the comments.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want you to have a dog. I know your life.
No,
enough to
my
know
life is
that would
nuts.
stress you out more than it would feel.
I would get
helpful.
arrested for animal abandonment.
What if you got a dog, but it like hung out at one of our houses?
Yeah,
most
like
of the
my
time?
house.
You
Okay.
could give Brooke a key to your house that she could come hang out with your dog whenever she wanted, and that would be a good love
That's a
language
good
for you.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. One of my new oddly specific love languages, which I should have known this about myself, is when people give you access to their house and just trust you. Like, oh, yeah, you know the code. Like, let yourself in. Go in anytime. Or, oh, here's a house key. I used to give away when I lived in a house. I don't anymore. When I lived in a house, I made copies of my house key. Like, me and the guy at Lowe's who helped me make the keys were on first name basis because I was making keys like it was my
Because you were
job.
loving other people the way
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
wanted to
because
be
I
loved.
just shelled them out. Like, I'd meet someone, but oh, here's a house key. You come in anytime.
Okay. Wow.
That makes me nervous for
Yeah.
your safety.
Okay.
But also,
no, listen.
Yeah.
I was smart. It's not like I was like, oh, random stranger at the gas station. It was, oh, trusted friend from church and female. It wasn't like, oh, here, man who hit on me. Here's a key to my house. I'm not crazy. Golly. Did you think some of these words would ever be said on Encourage and Equip?
No, but
Yeah, we'll probably have
it
to cut
has
some of
made
it
my
out.
day.
Yeah.
I told you it'd make you laugh. I live to serve. When Misty was like, we should laugh more, I was like, challenge accepted. I'll put the team on my back.
I'm having a hard time thinking about this, but I think one that only David, my husband, does this, but he kind of has a radar for it, and he will come home sometimes and he'll say, I think you need nacho therapy.
That's awesome.
Camille snorted
Wait,
too.
so does he take you somewhere or does he make
And then we go and we
Eat nachos.
We eat nachos. When we had no money, we would split a plate of nachos and eat lots and lots of chips. And then, you know, when you're feeling flush, you get your own nachos. And
when you're
flush.
feeling
Might get some nachos.
yep.
Wow.
And that's just his, like,
That's cute.
that is nacho therapy.
That's cute. When was the last time you needed nacho therapy? Can I ask that?
Pretty
needs
often.
it. She needs it
pretty
today,
often. Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
Would you ever share nacho therapy with someone, or is this just like a just for you?
No, I would
Okay.
nacho therapy with anyone.
Like if someone showed up
I
with
feel like
nachos.
nachos are kind of one of my love languages.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I hate to break it to you, but yeah, nachos are your
Okay,
your love language.
years ago, I was in a really, really long meeting. It was when I was a volunteer here, and I was, anyway, yes, part of a board meeting. And it was super long and boring. And just da-da-da-da-da-da. And then somebody mentioned there was going to be a nacho bar at something, and I went,
like,
in front of the whole table, and everybody was like, okay. Nachos are just,
you like were aghast.
I couldn't
nachos.
wait.
I cannot wait to bring you a plate of nachos and just watch you look at me adoringly.
Yeah, I will.
Can't wait.
Yeah, nachos in any form, my specific love language.
Wow. Okay, to close, a lighthearted, fun question. What is something you're enjoying in this season of life? It can be lighthearted. It doesn't have to be like deeply cathartic.
I am really enjoying, like, it's going to sound weird, but it's good. Like, I am really enjoying the fact that I am in my 40s, and I feel like I know myself way better than I ever have in my whole life.
That's
like,
cool.
It's a really neat thing to be like, oh, yeah, like, I know that about myself, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of a difference, but at least I know it. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. I love it. I love learning more about, like, other people who are around me, and that's always been true, but, like, sometimes you forget that you're one of the people that's in your life.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Like,
That's a great thought.
Yeah. We have 2 golden retriever, I guess they're kind of puppies. They're like 14, 16 months old right now. And they are a giant mess and a lot of work, and also my joy.
That is sweet. I need to come over and meet them.
You do.
And snuggle them.
Yes.
Okay, 2 things came to mind. One, and it's going to seem like I'm trying to cover up the rain thing from earlier, and it's really not.
Sure.
But spring forward is my favorite day of the year because I love light.
yes.
It's literally my favorite day of the year
is
because
such a good
I'm a
call.
night person. So the fact
Yeah,
that
you
the
are.
sun is not going down for a long time brings me an inordinate amount of joy. And my nieces and nephews are growing up. My oldest nephew graduates from high school this year. And seeing
Congratulations.
just seeing who they are. Like Brooke knows this.
That's
When
sweet.
probably my favorite hobby is just actually knowing people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good, bad,
Yeah.
whatever it is about you. I just love knowing people and seeing who my nieces and nephews are growing up to be.
Yes.
It's
That's
just crazy fun to me.
That is so sweet and fun.
Yeah.
Well, I love each of you. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for the platform that this podcast is. And I hope that we made the listener laugh and think and know that they are seen, known, and loved by God. And by God's grace, hopefully by our church family. So thank y'all so much for having me.
We love you, Brooke.
Love you.
Thanks for listening. For more episodes, be sure to follow Encouraged and Equipped.